What is up, YouTube? Alright, so today I'm gonna be talking to y'all about some random stuff. Alright, let me turn down this thing. Watching a little bit of Supernatural. You already know. Actually, you know what? That's a good place to start this conversation. It might sound silly to some, but when you're in a spiritual path, it actually becomes quite beneficial to to keep yourself occupied with spiritual things. So if you're gonna watch TV for a few hours or whatever, if you're gonna doze off one day and just be chilling, you might as well be watching something that's about occult stuff, about spiritual things. And it doesn't have to be like, documentaries and shit like that. I'm just saying anything. So if you're watching any type of show like the Tomorrow People, that show is pretty good. There's teleporting, telekinesis, those types of things in there. There's a lot of like superhero type things. So that would also come down to things like the 4400. I forgot what was that show called with the superheroes, with the Japanese dude that can travel through time, and they call him Hero. I think Heroes. Okay, yeah, there it goes. Heroes, stuff like that. You know what I mean? If you keep yourself watching those types of things, you kind of keep yourself in the mindset of those things. Is what's occupying your mind, and this sort of helps you build confidence or faith or whatever you want to call it in your craft. So when you're off doing something, it kind of fits in. Let me get comfortable here. So this right here is just gonna be a random video. It's just a random video, just going through some stuff. Holy crap. So yeah, I might as well I've been wanting to talk about some things that I've experienced lately. Now, I still don't have any viewers, but eventually, when people start viewing this, I completely 100% encourage you to leave me comments on what you think this is, or what. I've been having a lot of experiences through dreams lately, and I'm finding it really difficult to know whether if it's a dream or if it's something else, because certain things happen within my dreams that as time goes on, then I hear people talk about it, and then I realize this is an experience that someone had while astral projecting, right? So I've had a few experiences where either I'm asleep or I'm awake and I'm just doing mundane things, like everyday things, but I have an experience as if at the same time I'm also astral projecting, which is very strange because I've never really heard of that before. I've never really heard of a person astral projecting and being in their own body at the same time. So that was a very strange occurrence to me, and I'll get more into it as I go on with the video. It's very, very strange, how you call, occurrence, what's it called, like experience. I had, recently had an encounter with what I believe was somebody else that was astral projecting, and we had a small conversation, right? But during the conversation, I sort of heard myself say before this, that I spent like about a year as an atheist, because every time I would go through everything, I would realize that a lot of these things felt more psychological, and magic can be psychological, right? But I was finding it harder and harder to tell what was real and what wasn't. I got frustrated, and I decided, you know what, to hell with all of it. So I went a little atheist for a second, and then I was just demanding extreme amounts of proof, you know, definite proof of everything. Even my experiences, I would chalk them up to being some sort of an imaginary thing, you know, like, oh, I was sleeping, that was a dream, you know, that kind of stuff. Now, in this situation, I was talking to this individual. Actually, I think there was 2 individuals, or perhaps more. But I was talking to them, and I mentioned that, that I was having such difficulty. I was having such difficulty. What is this called? Astral projecting. I was having such difficulty astral projecting. And then they sort of looked at me kind of strange and was like, well, what do you think you're doing right now? Right? And during this time, things got a little weird, because that moment is when I sort of snapped into realization that through my mind's eye, I was witnessing myself in this other place. And I was conversating with these 2 beings, which I believe were people astral projecting as well, right? And as I'm having this conversation, I'm also 100% completely awake and aware in my room, watching TV. So I'm like, my vision is split. I'm seeing both things happen at the same exact time, you know? So I chalk this up to like me being tired, and it being some sort of, not a hallucination, because it didn't feel hallucination, you know, it doesn't feel like a druggy type situation. It didn't feel like that. It felt more like I was watching TV and I started daydreaming while watching TV. And I'm completely aware of the TV and everything in the room, but at the same time I'm daydreaming like a what if. But then I started to realize, wait, why as a what if, as a daydream, how would I create these beings, and how did I create the dialogue, which I didn't have prior knowledge to? So that's what was kind of weird. I was thinking, hey, this kind of seems like this is a separate entity asking specific questions, which, you know, I wouldn't have thought to ask myself. So at this moment, I started to think. And I'm like, hold on. So you guys, I concentrated. And when I concentrated a little bit, I saw the 2 beings clearly. I saw them more clearer than I was before. And I looked around, and I was in an area that was just completely dark, right? And I said, hold on. This is strange. Well, how can I possibly be astral projecting if I'm at my house? You know, I'm still at home. I'm just sitting there watching TV. I look around in this dark void, and I say, hold on. I wonder, because at this time I realized that, okay, so I'm talking right now, but then I sort of went back. Because I've been having some experiences where I keep remembering my past, and I was going through that, right? Like just reliving certain situations in the past. And at that moment, I sort of went back, and I felt I was a kid again, right? I was going through that. Oh crap. Yeah, so I was going through that. Right? My bad, guys. Some crazy stuff just happened on the TV. But so yeah, I was going through it. It seemed like I went back, and then I sort of went back to where I was currently, and then went a little bit forward. It was almost like as if half of my conversation with these beings was taking place at that very moment. Certain things that I was saying, I was actually saying further into the future, like a few days into the future, and the past, I was just listening to myself speak to them. I was just being quiet, listening, because when I looked into the past, I was a child still, so I wasn't really getting involved. I was just listening at this moment. Now, it gets very weird, because a few days later, that situation popped into my head, and the things that I said from the future and when I was seeing this before, I had said again at that moment. So it was like, holy crap! Like this exact moment, I've already been through it when I was, doing that thing the last time. So I hope that you understand what I'm saying. The day, the original day, the actual day that it was when I was here in the now, and I was also in that area where I was speaking with these beings, I saw myself speak to them. The other half of the conversation, I saw myself speak to them, but it was in the future. And then I saw that future come to fruition when that day came. If you understand what I'm saying here. Well, I'm not speaking that cryptic, so it shouldn't be that difficult. But yeah, it was a very strange occurrence. And then at that point, I told the beings, wait, hold on. Am I omnipresent? I asked them, am I omnipresent? Now, I'm not one of these assholes that are just gonna like toot their own horn and try to be like, oh, I'm some super enlightened being or this and that. So I'm like, hey, I'm not trying to be like non-humble or whatever. I'm not trying to be like super, I don't know, like gloaty or anything, but it seems to me like I'm in multiple places and multiple times at the same time within that moment. I'm not talking about constantly, just at that moment it felt like I was in multiple places at once and everything was going smoothly. Now sometimes if I think too hardly about these things, it does mess with me a little bit, so I try not to, but at the moment that's what I was feeling. So the situation was just very strange. It was just very strange. I still can't put my finger on it because I haven't been able to astral project. Whenever I have an experience that's sort of like astral projecting, I accept it as a dream, because I didn't feel myself leave my body. I didn't get to view my body in the place and walk around my room and figure things out, the way that one would. I've only gotten to astral project on my own, like by my own will, once, and it was very basic. I only left my body. I was still sitting up. I was doing this laying down meditation that Buddhists do and Taoists do, and I sat up, and I felt weightless. But at this point, I was only able to comprehend a few thoughts. I was thinking, hey, like, why am I sitting up? I'm supposed to be doing a laying down meditation. But at this moment, one of my family members ran into the room. And as I jolted my head to the side to look at them, I felt my face going this way to look at them. But instead of just looking at them, I sort of turned this way and crashed down at the same time. So the second that I was looking at them, I was already falling into my body. And when that happened, I sprung up like that into like back up, and I was like, what the hell? And I told my family member, hey, I'm doing something, don't come rushing into the room like that. And when once that happened, she was a little freaked out, and she's like, what the hell was that? And I'm not understanding still that I was astral projecting. I thought I was just there. She tells me, oh, when I rushed into the room because I was gonna tell you to get ready because the dinner was ready. But when I walked into the room, because I meditate in complete darkness, I cover the windows and everything. She says that she saw this hovering light over my body, and then like it was only for a few seconds, and then it disappeared, right? So it was just there, and then it disappeared. Now, this was very, very strange. This was just strange to me, and I don't understand it. I've had a few experiences with astral projection where I wasn't truly astral projecting. It felt more like I was a passenger in somebody else's astral projection. Like there's been a few astral projection experiences that I've had where it felt more like some other entity was doing something, and I slipped into some sort of trance where I was remote viewing that entity, but I was in it. I was near it and in it. Sometimes I can feel myself being that entity and also watching that entity at the same time, or it flips back and forth. It's a very strange occurrence. I don't understand truly how to get into the real facts. Like, I don't know how to get into it, because it's a very strange, it's just a very strange way to go to do this, because from all of my experience of listening to people, not my experience but other people's experiences, this is not like that. Usually once you start astral projecting, you're completely conscious and you're going through these things, whether you're roaming around the earth or you're going to these other areas. These things, you're still conscious of yourself. You understand where you are, where you're going, and all of that. Me, it's more as if I'm here and I'm witnessing this, and then I'm over there and I'm witnessing that. And sometimes I'm witnessing a few things at the same time, and they're just different. So it's just extremely strange. I'm gonna stop saying that it's strange now, but it is. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just documenting all of this, and hopefully some of you have some answers for me on what the hell is going on, because I've honestly just haven't, ever since that one time that I astral projected, I haven't been able to astral project again. But I've had experiences while I'm in meditation where it feels as if I've astral projected, but it feels like when I astral project and I leave my body, I don't actually leave my body and have to work out my astral form. I don't have to, work out and figure out, how do I start floating? How do I this? How do I that? It's like I'm meditating and I reach this state where I'm no longer here. And when I'm no longer here, sometimes it can just be nothing. Like I'm completely unaware of anything. And out, like an hour can pass, and it feels like a minute to me, right? Sometimes I've had a few experiences where I went somewhere and I was conversating with certain entities. I'm not sure what title you would give them or names that you would give them, but yeah, that's what was happening. I was having that conversation, these conversations, but the way that it was going down, it's like I wasn't even aware of myself. I was conscious, but at the same time I wasn't, which is, I have no clue how to freaking explain that. Like I've had experiences where I was talking to someone and I was trying to help. It might have been myself through a rough patch that I was going to go through, or that I did go through. So it was kind of like me being at a conscious state, a higher conscious state, going to a time when I was at a lower consciousness, and I was trying to help myself through that situation, which blows my mind, because we already know what when you connect to your higher self, what does that mean, right? You're connecting to yourself. It's just a higher consciousness version of you, because that higher version of you already exists. We just haven't bring ourselves up to it so that we're aligned with it, right? So in that moment, I've done this, and the strange part is that some of these occurrences were not in the past, but in the future. So I'm at a I'm an extremely high consciousness, and later on in the future, I actually stooped down. I dropped in consciousness, most likely because of lack of meditation. I spent a good amount of time, where all I did was meditate. I'm talking, I was meditating. I was going from standing meditation to sitting meditation for literally hours non-end. I spent about 9 months where I did not watch TV at all. Where within those 9 months, I probably turned on the TV and watched a movie with family, probably a few times, and I did sit down every once in a while, like when if somebody, if you know, a family made dinner, and it's just me and them, and they're gonna put on the TV. I'll sit there and I'll watch a TV show with them and eat. But I'm talking about an hour of TV within like probably a week. You know, a lot of the times I would eat dinner, or I would you know, have this time to conversate with my family, but it would be in like the kitchen dining room, and no TV's on, and they'll watch their TV, they'll do their thing, but I won't. I'll just stay put and meditate for hours and hours and hours, and that put me in a different state. Once I started meditating less and less and less and less, you know, I don't know if I'll use Taoist terms. You can research this, but if you know what the mind's chatter is, mind's chatter started building up a little bit more. I started experiencing more of the mundane human, you know, thought processes of, you know, what am I going to eat later on in the day type ideas and thoughts. Whereas when I was meditating on a constant, you know, all day, what was I going to eat or drink or any of that those things didn't cross my mind. If somebody didn't tell me, hey, it's time to eat, I probably would have not even noticed and just went straight through it and not ate at all. And I've actually done this with extremely long fasts. This is another thing about around this timing, was that I was going through extremely large a time fasting. And I've done liquid fasting also, where you don't eat or drink. Now the liquid, when you don't drink neither, this is kind of dangerous, so I don't recommend it. But it is supposedly good for your spirituality. It makes you stronger within. You gotta be careful with it though. I'm pretty sure there's already been an MMA fighter that like, you know, I think it was, they did a liquid fast to cut weight. And then it was so bad to them that they ended up not being able to compete at all anyways. So, you know, this can backfire. And it has backfired on me as well. But with the food I've gone like Jesus level amount of time without eating. I've done 1 week, 2 weeks, and my maximum amount of time was a full month. A full month of no solids, only water. And this I actually do recommend. I do recommend it, but you have to be prepared for this. You have to be in a good state. You have to have already been meditating for a while. And like, you really got to know what you're doing with this, because during this time where I did this 1 month fast, I had a very lenient job where nobody was viewing me. I had to work after hours. Nobody was there. And I don't have customers or anything. It's more like a janitor type business. So during this time when I was doing that job, I was able to come in, take my time with my job, and as long as everything got done, nobody was gonna ask questions, right? So you got to be really prepared for an entire month. Now the best time to do this, if you have the ability to just stop working for a month, like take a long vacation or something like that, that's honestly the best way to do this. Because if you're gonna go through the hassle of not eating for an entire month, you might as well not be watching TV. Don't be reading anything that's not beneficial to you at that moment. So whatever book if you're gonna read something, it has to be something that's spiritual in nature, something that's actually helping you in some way. And when I say this, I mean something that's actually helping you, something new, something that's going to, you know, like, yeah, there's no other way of saying that's going to help you. If you're just going to reread something you already read, you might as well not even do that. And instead, take the time you was going to read and spend it on meditating. If you're going to do a month fast and you spend it on meditating, spend it meditating, like for real, I'm talking you wake up and the first thing you do in the morning is you get into your the lotus position. If you can't do the lotus position, you get to the closest you can to lotus position with your legs, or you can even sit down or sit in a chair, whatever way. The point is, the first thing in the morning, you get into your position and you start meditating, and you don't stop. And that's what I was doing. I was literally meditating. I would wake up 9 in the morning. I'll start meditating, and I would meditate all the way. The full meditations. This was I'm mixing up time, like portions of time, right? So when I was working, one of these portions of times I was not working, and it was okay. I didn't have to work at this moment, right? So during that time, I would literally wake up around 9 in the morning, meditate until about 6, 7 in the night, and that's when I would stop and I would shake myself off, do a little bit of yoga to get the blood circulating again, and I would go eat dinner, which was extremely light, a very light dinner, probably one small piece of chicken, even that's if I had meat. Sometimes I wouldn't even have meat. So we was at that time we was eating a lot of greens. I was eating a lot of grains also, like rice and beans and stuff like that, but small amounts. Greens is what was the majority, because there wasn't enough. I just wasn't making enough money to purchase the more extravagant meals. So I don't know if if you're not Spanish, I don't know what this is called in English. It's called nopal. Nopal is like it looks like a palm, right? But imagine a palm, but connected, right? So it's like this, and it's a part of a cactus tree. Now, not the cactus tree that goes tall, that's tall, but the one that's like a bush, right? So imagine one of these things. It looks like this, but green, and it has the little spikes coming out of it. And you peel all the spikes off of it, and you put it to cook. The second it hits that grill, there's like this slimy water that starts to come out of it, and it grills real nice. It browns up like meat, and if you put a little bit of seasoning on it as if it was meat, it actually takes in the flavor, and it tastes just like meat. So if you're a vegan, right, or a vegetarian, the nopal is actually a great substitute for meat. If you have access to a lot of nopal, if you're living in the south coast, I mean like the southern region of America, this is a great freaking way to substitute meat. Because first of all, this is kind of, I forget the name sometimes, but all of these things, all of the fruits that come from cactus are usually extremely good for you. They're extremely good for what's it called? What's this shit called, man? Like antioxidants, I guess. I guess the slimy substance would be soluble fiber. So it's just good for your body altogether. I know that it feels good going down. Like it tastes good, all of that, but it also feels good going down. Like you know what I'm trying to say here. But so I was eating that, I was eating like very light things, like green peas. We would make green peas as like a thick, I guess you would say stew. But so there was just a lot of greens, a lot of potassium. There was a lot of potassium. Now, I might as well say this right now before I forget. For those who don't understand how to determine your food, whether it's yin or yang, the best, easiest way to know is whether it's high in potassium or sodium. Now, potassium is yin. Potassium is a yin, and sodium is yang. So when you're too yang, like let's say you're extremely hot. If you're in a hot climate, that's yang. Heat is yang. If you're too yang, then you need yin. And yin would be potassium. Potassium would be, yin would be cold, right? So if you're too hot, you turn on the AC. You meet that yang, with a sufficient amount of yin, which is the AC, and then you balance out that temperature, and now you feel good again, right? So again, if you're too yang in food, too much sodium, you switch up and you start getting a lot of yin, and that yin is going to clear things up. It's going to put you balance. Now, being that almost everything we do, everything we eat has so much sodium in it, you can't get enough potassium. By my count, I think the more potassium you get into your body, the better. But that doesn't mean stopping consuming sodium. You still have to consume the sodium you consume, but also consume 4 times the amount of sodium in potassium. So with the diet that I was doing, I was getting so much potassium, everything was running so smoothly that I guess all of this yin energy was translating into just ridiculous amounts of meditation time. You know, it would be rare for me to sit down to meditate and for me to stop anything under 3 hours. Like 3 hours felt like a good amount of time. Like wasn't impressive at all. That was just, okay, that was a nice little meditation. I guess I can go outside and do some walking around meditation. Or in this particular area, I was able to strip down to just boxer or like shorts, right? And just walk around in the sunlight, or lay down on the floor and just take in all the vitamin D from the sun. I was able to go outside and do sun gazing in the morning and sun gazing at night, so I can watch the sun rise, watch the sun set, and I would do it as a meditation. So I would stand with my feet firmly planted on the ground at shoulder width, right? Shoulder like at the same, yeah, shoulder width, pointed directly forward, and I would stand at the area where the sun was coming up, and I would watch it rise slowly, and I would not move. I would just stay there. The only thing that's moving are my eyes, and it's moving extremely slowly because I'm just watching it rise, right until the point that it becomes strong. Because if you know about sun gazing, as this thing is rising, right, as it's rising, the light gets stronger and stronger and stronger until there's like a threshold. Once it passes that, now it's the full-fledged sun beaming in your face, and that's when it becomes too much, and you can blind yourself if you go farther than that. But during that moment, right in the morning when it's just sunrise or sunset, there's something about the angle of where the sun is that it doesn't feel like this anymore. You can look directly into the sun and nothing will happen. You'll feel fine. In fact, you're actually taking in a crap load of lumens of like sun information. It's almost as if you're taking in like some sort of information, some sort of coding from the sun, and you're deriving some sort of energy from it. Because during the time I was doing this, my eyesight was impeccable. At nighttime, I did not have to turn on lights. I can see perfectly fine in the dark. I can see perfectly fine no matter how bright the lights are in a room. My eyes were just able to adjust immediately without much hassle, right? So there's a lot of this stuff that I was doing, and I think that's what was getting me to this point where I was just able to jump into places and witness certain things. Now, a lot of these things that I witnessed was more of a, it was more of a dream. Like, I've had some crazy dreams. Now, I've heard about people's experiences, like the hellhound, right? I've heard someone tell me about it. I forgot the name of the hellhound. I always, sometimes I just forget these things. I know I saw a YouTuber talk about the hellhound and how he summoned, he did the invocation, I believe. He went into his meditation and he was transported there, and he saw this it's a canine, and this canine pretty much attacked him, right? It attacked him, and he, as his experience, it was painful. It was painful. This canine was attacking him and clawing and all this stuff, and supposedly, as it was biting and doing all these things, it was stripping him of these pieces of himself that he didn't need anymore. Which to me, it sounds like, oh, I understand that. Now, when I heard this recently, I realized I've already experienced that, but it was different for me. When I was transported into this place, I was doing a laying down meditation, because the way I would go to sleep is by laying down. I would do this small meditation that would get me into a sort of not sleep paralysis where you can't get up. Like if I wanted to, I can will myself to start moving, but I sort of slowly shut my body down. So those moments, like that half an hour before you go to sleep, when you're just lying in the bed and you're just trying to go to sleep, instead of trying to go to sleep, I'd rather take that half an hour as a small meditation. So during what would happen is, during that meditation, I would feel my body losing all of like awareness and feeling, and not in a bad way. It would just it would feel like my body is sinking, but as it's sinking, it's becoming like more weightless than before. Yeah, that doesn't seem like the right way of saying it. It's like as I'm sinking down, I'm becoming lighter and lighter, right? Yeah, that's the best way I have at the moment to explain it. But this particular day, I slipped into this trance where I was still conscious of myself. I can still kind of see myself in my bed, and I've slipped to this thing, and then I went to this area. The dog was there. It attacked me. It bit my arm, right? And I felt it sink its teeth into my arm, like really, really sink its teeth into my arm, but I didn't feel it, which is crazy because I felt it but didn't feel it. I understood what was happening, and I intellectually can feel it, as in I understand that this should be painful. I understand that there's this feeling, and I sort of willed myself to feel something so that I understood it better, but it wasn't painful to me. I was kind of very zen about it, and I had this sort of I don't want to misconstrue the emotion I had at the moment, but I sort of had this feeling towards this animal, as if you have a pet, and have you ever had a cat or a dog where you're playing with it and it bites you, but it bites you in a way where you're not getting hurt, and you understand, like, this is the way it plays, kind of thing. I had that kind of feeling. Now I know this is people who have dealt with this, that canine would I don't know how they would feel about my experience, so I just don't know. But in that moment, what happened was, I sort of felt, I don't want to say like it's my pet, because even the animals that I do have, my cats, I don't treat them like pets. Like, I don't treat animals like pets. Like pets, a pet, when you think about it, the pet is a secondary thing. It's like a second class. You know, it's like kind of saying it's like a property. I don't really look at it that way. When I have animals, I usually treat them as equals, which is, I know it sounds strange and weird, and people that train animals would be like, that's ridiculous or whatever. That's just the way I look at it. It's just the way that I naturally vibe with animals. I treat them as equals. I treat them as I am no better than them. I am an animal just like them. So that might be wrong to some of you, but that's the way I feel. So that's the way I do it, right? But I had that sort of feeling with that being, and I didn't know what that being was. I didn't give it a name. None of that. This being, I just did not understand what it is. All I knew is I had this experience and I felt good. When I left that place and I woke up, I was sort of going through the thoughts of, what did I just experience? How did it feel? Was it painful? No, it wasn't painful. It actually felt really good. I actually feel way better. I feel like it did something positive for me, which is the ultimate the all-around experience most people have. Some people experience it as being very, very painful, but ultimately they say that it was beneficial. Now, I had the beneficial, but I didn't have the painful. Now, I think is because during this time I was so meditated. I was so meditated that I just didn't have that much. I didn't have anything to get rid of. You know? I was completely accepting myself. I was completely in tune with myself and with my surroundings. And I wasn't, none of my surroundings, none of what was going on was necessarily bothering me. So if something bad would happen, I would sort of, even laughing it off seemed like a waste of my energy. You know, like I just accepted things for what they were, face value. I was super Zen, not necessarily Zen, more the way of a Taoist would look at things. I was becoming a part of nature, but within that becoming a part of nature, I was still able to function in society. I still had a small time job. I was working a few hours a day at a convenience store, and it was enough to get around, get by in that area. Now I'm flipping back and forth through times. There was a good portion of time where I didn't have a job. Then I had a very small job where it was a few hours. Then I had a little bit more of a demanding job, but it was night hours, so it didn't matter. I get to go home, sleep a few hours, wake up, get back into my meditations and so on and so on. My standing meditations, my record for standing up, like just standing straight with my hands above my head and letting the energy from source just come over me. My record is 7 hours, which personally I wish I could have done more than that, but after 3 hours your toes feel like they're gonna fall off soon. So 7 hours is actually I don't want to say impressive, but to me I felt like it was impressive because at a certain point I just stopped feeling the pain in my feet. Like, because your feet, I think that this energy is coming over you and it's pushing the negative energies, not dark energies, but just non-beneficial energies. It sort of sinks them down to your feet, to the balls of your feet, and your feet become extremely hot. Like your feet will become extremely hot and numb, and it feels like you're losing them. Like I don't know how to explain it. It's a very difficult thing to explain, but it feels like you're starting to lose them and such. So that's so I've had a lot of these experiences that are just strange to me because other people that I've heard about the Hound that have experienced that, they've experienced it and it was intentional. Like they had to do something to make that happen. They had to do some sort of ritual, some sort of something to make it happen. To me, it just happened. I was just there, and I'm like, all right, I'm just along for the ride. And I was experiencing things like this, and some of these experiences were a little not scary. For some reason, even if it was a situation that intellectually I'd understand, that should be scary, but it wasn't scary to me. But they were upsetting. There were some experiences that was upsetting to me where I would get angry. There was one experience where I woke up and I was tied to a stake. Like there was a stake going up like this and I'm tied to it with barbed wire. Now obviously this is a dream. At least this is what I'm experiencing. When I come out of these experiences, out of these situations, I tell myself it's a dream because it's the most logical reasoning. It's the most reasonable and logical explanation. I can't just assume that everything that happens is because of some sort of, what's it called, astral projection or something. So I did that. I was there, and I was just witnessing myself stuck to this, and I didn't feel anything at all. I was just like, whatever. But then there was this lady, and she's standing in the middle, and she's sort of screaming, and like there's like something going on there, right? And I'm still like, whatever, right? But then I look to my side, and I realize that I'm this one guy tied here, and around me there's a circle of other stakes, and I saw a few ladies that were tied up to these things. And the second that I saw these other people that were tied up to this thing, I immediately became enraged, and I just ripped off the barbed wires, and I fell down. And then the lady that was screaming started to do something, but I was completely unaffected by it. I just walked up to her and grabbed her by the face, and I was about to, like, pretty much attack the shit out of her. But at that moment, something happened, and I just snapped out of it and came back to where I was. Like, I was ready to freaking just bash her fucking head in, because I was assuming that she had some sort of power, and I needed to get her out the way so I can get those other people off those stakes, right? So I did that. So as soon as I grab her, I wake up out of it. And I was pretty pissed off, not because of what happened to me, but because I didn't get the chance to take those people down from their stakes, right? But now me, when I'm thinking of this is like, obviously that was a dream. But I mention it because who the fuck knows, right? When I had the experience with the dog, right? I had that experience with the dog, and people apparently know its name, which I at the moment forgot. But people know its name. People invoke that being and learn from it through that experience that I had. The only difference is that when I had the experience, I guess there was just nothing left in me for him to rip out, and that's why I just didn't feel anything, So there's a few experiences that are just ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous, that are difficult to explain. I had another experience where I was at the moment I was living in the South, and I had an experience that I was in the North, like the Northeast of America, and I was in a city where I've had family, and I'm at a table and I'm eating with all these people, but I don't know who these people are, and then they start to say some stuff that's like making fun of me, and I'm a little confused on what's happening, and I don't understand. I'm very confused, and then I say, hold on a second, how did I get here? This area, this is like 9 hours away, 15 hours away, so more like 15 hours away from where I live. It's impossible for me to have came here and not noticed the drive, or forgotten the flight, or forgotten whatever. And then at that moment I said, wait, is this a dream? I'm dreaming. And then the people started saying something, and one of the guys stood up and got like angry, and he started to say something at me, and I didn't waste any time. I just flipped him on the floor, and I was about to like pretty much attack the crap out of him. That's kind of my bad. I don't know if I'm not supposed to do that, but that's kind of how I reacted in those experiences. I just go straight for the throat and just attack. Like, what the hell y'all doing here? And the second I do that, I wake up. Like, as soon as I'm about to attack one of these beings, I wake up. Now, I'm not sure what this is supposed to teach me, or again, my biggest idea is like my biggest what would I call it? My biggest notion of what this would be is just a dream, right? But these dreams, I've never been one to dream. I've literally spent my entire life with dreamless sleep. I would go to sleep, nothing. There's just nothing happening at all, and then all it is, it's like a pause button on life, and then when I press play again in the morning, I wake up and it's daytime. That's all. And I always felt that when there was dreamless nights, I would get better sleep. Okay, so that's why I would enjoy the dreamless night, because it's so much more relaxing, and it's almost as a meditation within itself, because you're spending a few hours doing nothing at all. You're just in void. You're in the void. It's just pitch dark. There's nothing. They're completely unconscious, completely unaware of your own existence, which is kind of a state that I enjoy being in. For a good good portions of times, right? So there's yeah. So this is I'm just documenting all of these things, these strange things that have been happening, because a lot of these situations that have happened before, a lot of these so-called dreams, I've actually lived through. There's been a few of these experiences where I was shown things years before, and then today I'm actually living those particular days, like full days. I literally had a very deep meditation about two and a half years ago, and during that meditation I was shown something about the future, and in the future, when I went through in the future, I was shown all these things, so on and so on, and then today, right? Today, as in like the recent moment, like the past few months, right? I wouldn't even say past few months. I would say last month, I had a series of days where it was probably 3, maybe a few more days consecutively where I knew everything. If you've ever had deja vu, I was having deja vu during that time. I was having deja vu literally about like 3 to 5 times within an hour. You know, I would hear something and I would remember it, and I'm like, hold on, I've already been through all of this. And it was literally the full day. The full day, there wasn't a single piece of it that I didn't already experience. Now, recently, when I have those types of experiences, I've been trying to do is remember, okay, I just had this deja vu moment. Now, most likely, I'm going to have another one very soon. And I try to remember what happened before it actually happens again. Because if you notice, once something happens, it has happened. It's in your mind now. So you could be tricking yourself into believing that this is a memory, that I have the memory of this particular action already happening. The problem with that is that it just happened, so you do have the memory of it. The only way for me to truly know that I've seen the future is if I remember it beforehand. All right, I would have to have remembered beforehand, and I say this is about to happen, and then a few hours later it happens, and I'm like, holy shit. Then I know for a fact. Now, I've had a few experiences like that where I know for a fact that I've told the future, because I actually went into these trances where I would tell people the thing that was going to happen. You know, I predicted a few things. I don't want to get into what exactly I predicted just yet, but I've predicted a few things to a few people, and personal things, and also big scale things, right? Like really big scale stuff that's you know, like just really, you know, like and they came to pass. Like, I remember I had one experience where I was with a few friends, and I was smoking. We was smoking the reefer, right? And we was having our fun. And something happened that sort of jolted me, and I slipped into this trance. And within this trance, I started sort of conversating with myself, but it was my current self, which was in about 2007, and I was speaking to myself from 2018. And at that moment, when the second I realized what was happening, I was like, oh my God, I need to get as much information as I can get into the past, not to change things or ruin things or anything like that, but simply so that I can have the evidence, the proof that this is what happened, that I was speaking from the future, right? So I began to tell them about the presidency. At this moment in time, they still hadn't had, these people I was talking to still did not know the first black president, because they still hadn't have it. And I told them that Barack Obama was going to be the first black president. And I actually sang a song It's like a rap song where it goes, my president is black, my Lambo is blue. I'm not gonna try to sing it, but I thought that was hilarious, and I started singing that, and they was like, what the heck is going on here? And they were just recording these things, and then I was just thinking like, oh my god, wait, this is like more than 10 years ago. This is more than 10 years ago. You guys don't even have smartphones yet. Like, you guys don't have iPhones? Like, oh my goodness. And I just got shocked. You guys don't have Netflix? Oh my god, you guys must be living like savages. How do you not have Netflix yet? What is going on? And they're just chuckling a little bit, and they just, jotting down the stuff, like mentally jotting down the stuff that I was telling them. So I predicted this. I told them about Trump. I've actually told them about Trump being president first, but then I realized, hold on, why am I saying this? They still don't even know about Obama. So then I told them about Obama, and I had a few experiences with that situation, because when it came to pass and Obama actually became president, that shit was that was kind of spooky to us, right? I usually do this a lot. Usually those types of experiences happens when somebody is involved with the occult and I don't know it. So if the person is involved with the occult, is doing something, either they're Wiccan or whatever it may be, right? Whatever they may be, when that happens, when they're there and I'm chilling with them, but I personally don't know that they're that, I'll slip into these states and I'll start telling them things. It's almost as if I was helping them along their path, and sort of showing them that this shit is real, like real as heck, right? So this stuff is so real that I literally predicted things that they were able to verify within the next few years, as the years were going by. You know what I'm saying? So it's just crazy, right? It's just crazy scenarios that I've been going through, and I've been really trying to understand it. Now, usually I don't really try to understand these things. I just take things for what they are, and I just roll with it. I just let things rock. It's whatever to me. I don't know. I think I try to see things the Taoist way, and as a Taoist, I just, go with the flow. Everything is just go with the flow. I don't really ask much questions or anything. Recently, since I spent that year as an atheist and I completely gave up on meditating and everything, I did start to have a few problems arise because of my lack of meditation, and I had achieved such a high level of consciousness that lowering my consciousness, I just didn't know how to deal with the things that I'm able to do with such a lowered consciousness. Even at the moment, I don't feel my consciousness is anywhere near as high as it was a few years back, where I'm actually on my path again, trying to get back to where I was before, so that I can get some control over these experiences, right? But yeah, but this it's been a really wild and crazy ride, just going through all of these things and sort of prophesizing to myself and friends, and then seeing those things I prophesized come to fruition. And I never really gone on a, like Jesus-y, revelations type thing. I usually just tell people about shit that's gonna be cool. Oh, like, look, there's this song that's gonna come out 5 years from now. Do you think this song sounds dope? It's like stuff like that. It was kind of like me just trying to prove to myself that I'm able to do these amazing things. Now, I do feel that I've been regaining my consciousness. I've been getting back to where I was, but I'm still nowhere near it. I have noticed that my telekinesis has been getting a lot stronger. So I'm not sure if this is a good thing or a bad thing or how that works, because when my consciousness was higher, my telekinesis was a lot weaker, and now that my consciousness is lower, my telekinesis is a lot stronger. So I don't know how that works. You know, back then I was having all these experiences. I've witnessed things from the future, but personal things of my own life, nothing too drastic or big. There was all of these things that were going on, and then today, a lot of these experiences have been happening, but I've been experiencing them differently. I guess, yeah, I'm gonna save it for the next podcast, because you know, I guess it's not the greatest to have such a long video on my channel just yet. I don't necessarily have the viewers to actually get this far into the video. So I'm gonna save the other experiences I had for another video. Alright, yeah, I hope this video has helped some of y'all, whether it's like, you know, just understanding. Oh shit. I hope this helped y'all, you know, just understand stuff, or maybe y'all have gone through some of the stuff that I've gone through, and y'all can let me know, like, for real, like, just leave comments. I'm really hoping this channel picks up at least a few viewers, enough viewers that I'll get, you know, some responses on what do you think is going on with me, or if you've experienced things that I've experienced, and how did you experience it, because I've already listened to a few people that have experienced the same things I've experienced, but differently. It was just different, you know. So that would be awesome if you guys have experienced something I've experienced, and you can let me know how did it go for you. Like, if you've dealt with the hellhound, that hellhound, the dog, if you've experienced that, was it painful for you? Was there any emotions? Was there anything that, you know, was there anything that really, you know, happened that was different, or was it the same as me, you know? And also, I'll leave it on this note. With these experiences, I would also like to know if you're on a right-handed path or a left-handed path. Now, I've always considered myself a non-dual, like non-dual path, a middle way path, like a basic Taoism. There's basic Taoism, which is pretty much riding the center of the yin-yang. You know, not being yin, not being yang, not being dark, not being light. But at any moment, I can switch back and forth depending on what it is I need at that particular moment, right? So, yeah, so let me know, because at the time that this was all happening, even though I was non-dual, I was doing more of a right-handed path. I was more of a right-handed path individual. Just based on the works that I was doing, I wasn't invoking or evoking. I wasn't working with any beings whatsoever, at least not through my own knowledge. If I did work with some sort of spirit guides or something like that, it was completely unknowingly, you know, because I have had conversations in these altered states. But these altered states, I reached them unintentionally. It was just through deep meditation I would reach these areas and have these conversations and discover things. And yeah, you know, but I'll leave the rest of the stuff for the next video. Just let me know, because I'm trying to find out if the path you're on, whether you're on the left or right-handed path, does this make a difference to the way you experience certain things, right? So, yeah. So, alright guys. Deuces.